Have you ever met those people who changed the course of your life, that changed the trajectory of your life? I did in college. I met a gentleman by the name of Steve Goforth. He was one of my professors in Oklahoma City. Now, Steve told me something striking. He told me this. He said, "Rick, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?" Now, this really lit up my life. I thought about what could I do if I could not fail? And this is something that you should consider as well. What could you do? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? I think it's the words of the great John Maxwell, who told us that sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And what he means by this is that sometimes you have to go through failure in order to receive that which is due to us and that what we need, which is learning. We go through failure, we reflect, we adjust, and we learn. And only through this feedback loop are we able to become the types of leaders, the types of husbands and wives, the types of business partners, the types of colleagues to our coworkers that we were meant to be. And that if I'm not meeting my potential, then it's incumbent on me to become the type of person who's able to strive towards that potential. Remember, potentiality is not a set destination. It is a aspirational destination that we can only move towards, but we can never achieve. And this is a little bit what Jung spoke about, this idea of the conscious man and the subconscious man, that the conscious man takes all the great qualities of their life, all the great attributes, the great things that he's done historically, and incorporates those into the public perspective of who he is and acts on those. But the truthful man will also take all of the areas of the subconscious, the failures, the regret, the mistakes, and incorporate those into who you are and who I am, so that we might become a whole man. And this is the idea of the whole man that Jung speaks about, that we must incorporate the shadow man into the public man if we're able to become that which we were created for or meant to be. That on our way to potentiality, we must go through this process. This is a little bit like this time that when I ran for US Congress about 5 years ago, I did so with the intent on helping my neighbors and my fellow citizens and my family get through a really major natural disaster, that tragedy, because I was convinced that I had the skill set in order to get to that. Now, I still believe that I had the skill set to get us through that, but what I did not realize is that the political activity requires something a little bit different, that you're not elected to politics because you're the most competent person. You're elected because you're the most likable and you're able to convince the most number of people to vote for you. And here's a little secret about politics, just a little side point, this is a little bonus, that people want to vote for the winner. And if they think that someone's going to be the winner, they like to be proved right. They will vote for the winner because in that person winning, they were proved right by their vote. That the vote is an act in which they would like to have correspondent confirmation. Just a little side point for those of you that are aspiring politicians. And so when I ran, I realized that about 3/4 of the way through that, hey, this is not for me. But how do we get the best people in the office? How do we pivot midway? And this is what's really, really important, in that whenever we find ourselves in the midst of a pursuit, we don't give up because it's difficult. No, we pivot if it's not meant for us. If it's not us, we pivot, provide the next best alternative as the objective. And so this is how we eventually become that person who reaches their potentiality. Hey guys, I really hope you're enjoying the topic so far today. If there's anything that you would like for me to talk about next, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Love to hear great ideas about videos, stories, historical encounters, philosophies, world religions that you'd like to hear about. Comment below. Let's get back into today's topic. And let me give you another example. This is from just life experience. And think about it. You all know these people that maybe are in their 50s, 60s, 70s who have that child, that really, really smart child who maybe studied technology or studied sciences or studied something. They're a really heavy thinker. And the parents have always thought of this kid as, man, this kid could become anything. He could be really, really great because he's so brilliant, he's so smart. He just got everything aligned. He's become a manager. He's working away at this big company. Or he's tried this or he's tried that, and he just hasn't really found his footing in life. He hasn't had his big opportunity. Now, the thing about opportunity is that you must create opportunity for yourself. Now, remember what my mentor said. He said that we should think about what would we do if we knew we couldn't fail. And subvertly in that, what he was talking about is not that we should learn through our failures, is that we should attempt to fail. and to fail often, because only through failure can we reach not the potentiality, but can we reach the concrete man? Can we actually become and be a concrete man or a concrete woman? And that's the story. That's the lesson that those parents who are proud of that 30, 40-year-old son who's brilliant, but never actually becomes anything because they're not willing to take the risk. They're not willing to step out and fail, because once they fail, they admitted that they're a failure, right? As long as all they are is potentiality, they can never fail. They can never be proved wrong, but they can also never be proved right. This is the selfish nature of the brilliant man who never takes a risk, who never takes any risks, that lays back on his laurels. And you'll find this a lot in the college systems. I think that you find a lot of tenured professors who are afraid to take that big next risk, big chance. And this is why they live lives in a single position for 30, 40, 50 years in the university system. They're afraid of the risk. And so we as leaders must accept, and I had to do this, have to accept the nature of leadership as one being prone to risk, that prone to failure, that if we're able to accept that we will fail, we're going to fail often, what is the process behind that? What is the feedback loop that we're able to incorporate the lessons and move on to the next failure or the next success? And I have a common saying that I have to fail 10 times to find one thing that works. I've got to try 10 things to get one really big thing to work. And if we understand that with big things, we're going to fail a lot, that the tough things are going to fall apart. They're going to fall apart on us midway. But sometimes the big things will work out. Sometimes they'll come to fruition. And they may not come to fruition through our own merits, through our own deeds, but they come to fruition by our willingness to fail. And only through failure can we eventually come to success. And only through failure can we become the concrete leaders that we were called and that we and our neighbors and our organizations require of our fellow workers. That we need you to reach your potential, and we will do our best to reach our potential. We understand that we have to have the grace for one another to overcome the failures, to be reflective, to be honest, and incorporate the shadow man, the shadow woman, the person with all the bad attributes, but incorporate that in order to be whole people, to be whole leaders. Only through that can we come to the place where we're reflective and we understand, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the topic so far today. If you're on Twitter, I'd love to hear from you. Follow me, Rick Walker Tex. Again, it's Rick Walker TX at Twitter. Love to hear from you over there.